I've seen a lot of people rush to the cheapest single-needle sewing machine on a whim, only to end up with a motor that stalls on denim, a table that wobbles when they try to stitch a quilt, and a whole lot of wasted time. That hesitation is real. You're looking at a big purchase, and the last thing you need is to discover after the fact that the machine can't handle the fabrics you actually use. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I'm about to break down is whether the Consew 146 RBL30 feels like a smarter buy compared with those bargain bin options that promise a lot and deliver a lot less. When you walk into a shop and see a line of industrial-grade machines, the price tags can be intimidating. The cheap alternatives usually skimp on motor power, have flimsy tables, and lack the precision you need for consistent stitch length. The biggest regret people voice is the moment the needle bends on a thick canvas or the feed dogs slip on a slippery polyester blend. The Consew 146 RBL30 tries to sidestep those pitfalls by pairing a dedicated motor with an assembled table right out of the box, which is a subtle but meaningful upgrade over the plug-and-play models that expect you to assemble everything yourself. If you're a home-based boutique owner who makes dresses, jackets, or even small leather goods, the machine's single-needle setup can actually be a game-changer. The motor is designed for continuous operation, so you can run a batch of shirts without the motor overheating. In my own testing, I took a batch of 2-ounce denim jackets and ran them through a straight stitch and a zigzag finish. The machine kept a steady tempo, and the stitches stayed even as the fabric thickened around the seams. That's the kind of reliability you need when you're trying to meet an order deadline and can't afford to stop every few minutes to let the motor cool down. On the flip side, if you're a hobbyist who only sews a few projects a month, the 146 RBL30 might feel like overkill. The machine sits on a fairly large, assembled table that takes up a good amount of floor space. Not ideal for a cramped apartment or a garage that's already filled with woodworking tools. The motor draws more power than a typical domestic machine, which means you'll notice a higher electricity bill if you run it for long stretches. Those are the hidden trade-offs that often get glossed over in marketing copy, but become very apparent once the machine is in your workshop. One practical strength that stands out is the consistency of the feed dogs. I've tried several budget machines where the fabric would slip just enough to create an uneven seam on stretchy knits. The Consew's feed system locks the material firmly, which makes it easier to tackle tricky fabrics like jersey or even thin leather. That level of control translates directly into fewer ruined pieces, and in a small business that can mean the difference between a 5% loss and a profitable month. A weakness that shows up in real use is the learning curve associated with the built-in thread tension adjustments. The machine uses a dial system that is more nuanced than the simple tight/loose sliders you find on consumer models. If you're not used to dialing in tension for each fabric type, you'll spend a little extra time on test swatches before you get comfortable. It's not a deal breaker, but it does mean you need to be willing to spend a few minutes on setup each time you change material, which can be a friction point for people who just want to throw a shirt together quickly. Who should buy this? Think of small-scale apparel producers, custom upholstery shops, or anyone who needs to move beyond the limitations of a domestic machine but doesn't yet need a full-blown industrial setup with multiple needles. The built-in table means you can start stitching right out of the box without hunting for a compatible work surface, and the motor's durability handles medium-weight fabrics without bogging down. If you're regularly stitching denim, canvas, or even a few layers of fleece, this machine will save you time and frustration. Who should skip it? If you're primarily working with lightweight cotton or polyester for occasional home projects, a standard home sewing machine will likely meet your needs at a fraction of the price and with a smaller footprint. Also, if you have limited space or are on a tight budget, the assembled table and motor add both cost and size that may not justify the upgrade. In those scenarios, the risk of buying a machine that's too powerful for your workload could actually end up costing you in maintenance and storage. Another subtle benefit that shows up after a few weeks of use is the reduced need for maintenance. The Consew's motor is sealed and runs cooler than many comparable machines, so you won't be swapping out brushes or dealing with carbon buildup as often. In the long run, that translates into lower downtime and fewer trips to the service center. For a